to the Greg and Leisa show. I'm Lisa.
And I'm Greg.
Thank you for joining us today. This is our very first full YouTube show. How do you feel about that, Greg?
You know, every guy dreams about doing a YouTube show with his mother-in-law, so this is fantastic.
Isn't it exciting?
It is.
I'm excited.
It truly is.
Since it's our first show, we want to spend some time getting to know you, but also you getting to know us. We want you to be a part of our YouTube family, and that's part of building a relationship. So, Greg, tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a professional nerd. I sit at a desk and I write computer software, but what is probably more pertaining to this show is, my wife and I, your daughter and I, we fostered kids and we adopted kids out of foster care. So that is really, that's the main part of life right now.
And that's exciting too.
It's something.
Yeah. Well, I'm Lisa, and that's Lisa with an E, not Lisa with an I. It's L-E-I-S-A, and that spells Lisa, and that's me. And I tell you that because if you try to look up listenandlearnwithlisa.com and you don't spell Lisa correctly, you won't find me. There are so many topics out there on Listen and Learn with Lisa that we can talk about, so if you get a chance, take a look at it. I am a workaholic. Oh, that's the wrong show, Greg. This isn't a show about workaholics today. No. But I have 2 great kids, and I have 6 grandkids, and they give me a lot of stories and a lot of things to write and to talk about. One of the things for the goal for our show is we want to help people, and we want to share our experiences, and we want to learn new things from you, our subscribers or viewers, and we want to share the love of God. I'm sure not everybody during this time, Greg, is going to agree with us. What do you think?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we're starting, I alluded to the premise, mother-in-law, son-in-law, so we're starting off on an odd premise, and we're, we're staking our lives and our families on something that is not the most popular thing in the culture nowadays.
That's true. And you're not always going to agree with me, and I'm not always going to agree with you. And we have one of our tools here. If we don't agree, we can ring a bell, and one of us will take a 30-second break.
I've been wondering what this bell is for. And I just found out when you did. So.
Yeah, so now you know. So, since we put our first short, though, out there, we've had a couple people that have said, hey, if you need a guest on your show, we'll be willing. So, that's exciting news, and I think that you never know who's going to be joining us, so you need to keep watching and checking back. But I want to read a scripture to you. It's 2 Peter chapter 1, verses 5 through 7. And it says, for this very reason, make every effort to add to your faith goodness, and knowledge, to self-control, and to self-control, perseverance, and to perseverance, godliness, and to godliness, mutual affection, and to mutual affection, love. And so I think as we go through this show, but not just this show, but as we go through life, love, respect is, integrity is premier in relationships and communication. And I think that we all need to learn to live by that a little more. So I want to give a shout out to all my family and friends because, maybe after this show, Greg, they may not like us anymore.
Well, I suppose that's the risk you take. And while we're talking about people not liking us, I just want to have a disclaimer. We're not doctors, lawyers. We're just people. So anything you hear on this show, anything you take in the way of advice, consider it just normal people talking to normal people.
Yeah. And just so you know, the names have been changed to protect the innocent. So we'll know, we won't tell you who they really are. So let's get started. And our topic today is blended families. So Greg, what do you think a blended family really is?
Well, there's a few ways I think about that. I think the first thing that is pretty easy to say is a blended family is any family that's not entirely biological.
Okay.
So, in our case, fostering and adopting, that's a blend right there. However, in the world of fostering, there's a thing called kinship placements, and sometimes the kid gets placed with the grandmother or a cousin or another family friend. So that is also blended family. Really, a blended family is anything that's not mom and dad and their kids in a house.
But did you realize that Jesus was in a blended family? You never really think about that, but he was.
No,
because Joseph wasn't his biological dad. So blended families have been around for a long time, but a lot of times blended families, though, they do get stereotyped, and a lot of times we do think about them as being a married again situation too, where they bring two families worth of kids in together. We think of the couples and merging families and all together under one roof. But in reality, there's all kinds of blended families. When you get married, you inherit your in-laws, like Greg's inherited me. Anyways, but you have to also blend your in-laws, because you have an in-laws, on his side and Jennifer's side, and oops, I wasn't supposed to say her name.
Yeah, we're supposed to protect the innocent.
Sorry.
There's a lot of people with that name in the world.
Yeah, that's true.
And a lot of them are around me. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and like you said, when you're a foster parent, you're blending that family. When you adopt a child, you're blending that family. When you're a new coworker into your business, you're blending that coworker into your family, because let's face it, we spend more time at work a lot of times than we do with our own real family. So they do become part of our family. Or in a church situation, when you have a church community and, you're blending all those personalities together. So really, blending families is not really just about blending families. What do you think it's really about, Greg?
Well, now that we've said all that, blending families. So your own family's a blend. Anything where you introduce people is a blend. So is it really about relationship building? It is.
It is about relationship building. And I think that's one of the key factors is relationship building. We are going to try and blend our family with our YouTube family. And we want you to get to know us like we want to get to know you. And obviously, it's going to take open communications on both ends. If you don't send us questions or you don't email us and correspond with us, then we obviously can't help you and we can't get to know you or what your needs are. And yes, like I indicated, we are here to help you and to share what we have learned through our life lessons over the years.
Yeah, and if you don't ask questions and do all that, you just have to rely on us to pick the topics and talk. So there is that factor too. But all this talk about relationship building, how do you think we really start to build relationships? What does that look like?
Well, I think that, how do you start building your relationships? First of all, it takes time, because nothing happens overnight. And we know when it comes to relationships that it takes things that we are not always willing to do or to sacrifice. And we have to get into that mindset that blending all types of families takes change. And oh my, that's a dirty word, change, because most people don't like change. But there's also another dirty word, Greg, and what's that?
Well, that dirty word, as I turn and look at our notes, because I'm not afraid to admit I'm doing that, that dirty word is compromise.
Yes, it is. And there's another one. It's communication. So how are we going to communicate? We have to compromise and we have to change. And those are the three dirty words of the challenge of building relationships. So why is it so hard to change, to communicate, to make compromises when you're trying to build a relationship?
Well, I think there's a thing I've been thinking about recently, which is, in our culture, we are taught and bombarded with these messages that you have to hate people you disagree with. And I don't believe that, and that's part of why we're here. And that, hating people you disagree with, it's the idea that, you're living your own truth. It's a very selfish and kind of, inward focused thing. It's that sin nature that's born in us to be selfish.
Yeah. It is. Sometimes we're selfish and we don't want to give up the things that we think we're entitled to. But also, we're creatures of habit, and sometimes it's hard to break a habit. And if you take somebody who has been on their own for a long time and, they meet somebody new and they want to start establishing a relationship, it's hard for that person that has been on their own to get into the groove of sharing their space with somebody new. So, also I think that a lot of times we expect everybody's crystal ball to work. And, let's face it. Let me see if my crystal ball's working, Greg, and see what's going on in your mind. My crystal ball's not working.
That's a trick question. I'm thinking about when the next season of one of the Star Wars shows is going to come out on Disney. All of them. Any of them. That's what I'm thinking about 24/7.
Oh, man, I should have known. As you can see with the Star Wars behind us. If you want to successfully, though, blend your families, no matter which type of family that you're talking about, it takes time. Anything, you want to do that is worth doing, it takes time. And I was always brought up that anything worth having was worth working for. And so you need to consider all parties when you're looking at building a relationship. Are you building the relationship for what? What is your end game in that relationship? Are you looking for world peace and you want everybody to get along?
Good luck with that one.
Yeah. Or are you looking for a marriage and merging two households together? Or are you looking for everyone to blend to a common goal at work or at church? So you need to look at what and who you are working with.
Yeah, just being cognizant of who's around you. This relationship building, these blending of families, there's not a one-size-fits-all solution to any of this.
No, there's not. And we don't have all the answers, but all we can do is share what we've learned through our experiences. And I've, been with a lot of blended families, and Greg has as well. And so there's things that work for us and things that don't work for us and things we'll never do again because we learned the hard way. So, when you're looking at who you're working with, kids are the toughest. And, kids are affected most when it comes to blended families. And why do you think that is? Because, a lot of times we don't put ourselves in the kids' shoes. And kids are kids. And when you bring somebody else into a kid's world and you start dating somebody else, or you're changing what their whole routine is, they don't know how to act and they get jealous. And they look at as, oh good, I have somebody else I have to share my mom with. Or, or now they have to share their room or their toys with, other kids that they really didn't, agree to be with the rest of their lives.
And we're talking about stuff that's hard to process with our adult brains, and I like to think of my brain as mostly fully developed, but when you're bringing kids into this, it's there is just scientific fact that they are not as well developed in their brains to deal with these emotions and think their way through things. It truly does become more of a fight or flight. The nuance that children are able to pick up on, it just can never be on the level an adult is.
Right. And they don't understand, because sometimes a child will look at it as, am I not good enough to be with you that you have to have somebody else to take your time? They also, when you blend those families, it's very, very stressful. It's stressful for the adults, let alone it's stressful for the kids. But, we expect the kids to make changes and adapt to things that are really what we want as adults, all in the name of love. Because you have found somebody new and you want you want to develop this new life with this new person, and the kids are gonna, come along with that. And, there's one thing that I learned in all of this is that the kids didn't ask for any of this. They were brought into the world, to have a mom and a dad, or, to have that person that's going to love them. And you spend your life with them and you build that time and that relationship with them throughout their lives, and you teach them. And then the floor drops out. And then we as parents or adults want to know, how can we fix this? And, how do you fix this? So, a lot of times we like to put it all in a blender and mix it up and hope everything comes out okay, or we'd like to wiggle our nose and say, it'll be okay, it's going to be good tomorrow, I'm going to fix it all, and you wiggle your nose and you want it all to be good. And we all know in real life and reality that doesn't happen. So how do you expect your kids to react?
Well, that's a question, because my kids, what they've been through, and I'm sure in other shows we'll get into some more of that. So how do I don't know, if you have the answer to that question, I'd love to hear it. I'm still figuring that out day by day, and some days I do okay, and some days I do real bad.
Yeah. Well, whenever there's kids involved, there is so much involved emotionally with them, and that until you spend that time to really get to know the kids, and they always want to be with their parents first. So, you can't expect a newcomer to come in and take their dad's place, or you can't expect a newcomer to come in and take their mom's place, because that's never going to happen. Because they have that love and that bond. And so you have to go back to building that relationship. And one of the things in building a relationship is earning that relationship, but earning that trust of the kids, because guys come and go and your kids are your kids forever. Girls come and go and your kids are your kids forever. So you have to look at it as, your kids need the extra love and attention no matter what age they are. I know I used to think when the kids were older, they didn't need as much attention and as much time. But I found out as the kids were older, they actually needed more time and more attention, because the things that they were dealing with were a lot harder than what the toddlers were. And so you have to, you really have to know your kids. And as parents, if you spent the time with them, you do know them. And you know what makes it work. And you know how to talk to them and to relate to them. But the issue comes in when we either become selfish because there's something that we want. And don't get me wrong, everybody is entitled to be loved. And, as a single parent for many years, a lot of times, sometimes you're looking for that person to be the dad that they never had. You're looking, for something that is going to give the kids more than maybe what you could do on your own. So there are a lot of good motivating factors. But, it comes down to kids will break the house down in a blended family.
Literally. In some cases, literally, they will break your house.
Yeah.
That happens, and you have to love them anyway. Maybe sometime I'll take the camera upstairs and see what the walls of the kids' rooms look like, and some of the lovely artwork and things, or some of the broken vents, broken chairs. We like to break chairs. We like to break toys. You love them anyway. If our little 5-year-old can love me even though I ran over one of his stuffed animals with a lawnmower, I did that.
Yeah.
He threw it right in front of my path. It was hard to avoid. But, if they 20 minutes later, he's still, calling you daddy and stuff, if they can love you after you destroyed their things, it's hard sometimes, but, you gotta love them when they destroy things, both physical and emotional.
And emotional. Right? Which is the unconditional love.
Yes.
And, the unconditional love is very important in a relationships, anybody's relationships, and it's like, the Bible tells us we're supposed to love. That's one of the main things that, Jesus was adamant about, is to love one another and love your neighbors as yourself. If we don't learn to love, even as a society, not even just in relationships and blended families, but as a society, we have to start learning to love our neighbors and to be there for each other and to stand up and to make that stand. I don't know if you remember that old movie, Yours, Mine, and Ours, with have Lucille Ball and Henry Fonda, and I know there's been some remakes on it. But if you haven't seen that movie for a while, you should check it out. It's full of some laughs and a lot of reality. So you should take a look at that. But, talking about the kids, bringing down the house, and in that yours, mine, and ours, the kids will go to great lengths to separate the two of you because they really don't want you to get together. And if you can't get together as a family unit and you can't blend the relationships, where do you think you're going to be on a success scale? It's going to be very, very tough. And we had a blended family, and a little 4-year-old boy, he had come into the family, and he was used to just being him and his mom. Well, then when another gentleman entered the picture, then it was he was jealous, and that relationship has never really mended or became cohesive. And it's hard because if you don't put yourself in the shoes, a little boy for 4 years had just him and his mom, and that was him and his mom. Now he had to share his mom, with somebody else. And then 2 more kids were born. And so a lot of times we forget and we don't take that time to blend those relationships. And, sometimes it is very, very hard. And I'm a praying grandma and a praying mom, and I enjoy praying for my kids, and I pray for everybody because we can never have enough prayers. We can never have enough help. We can never have, enough strength. And a lot of times I'll get up and say, I'm using your strength today, God, because there's so much going on. But, it's hard. And my heart goes out to the kids because I feel like as adults, we are expected to know how to act. We are expected to have all the answers. And we are expected to be the role model for these kids and to make it work. And we fall short. I fall short. I fell short. But, we keep learning and we keep moving and we keep going forward.
And that can be hard.
It is. It's very hard.
And that is why we use the Lord's strength, because I know there are days where my own is just, well, it's never going to be enough, obviously, but there are days where it's really not enough.
Yeah. And when you put a blended family together, or even any of the kids, they still need that one-on-one time. You need, and I know it's tough, everybody is so busy, but in the day and age when I grew up, everybody wasn't so busy. And you have to have that one-on-one time with each child. If that child doesn't get that one-on-one time in that personal relationship and development, you're really going to lose a lot. And if you don't spend that time with them, sometimes they're going to find somebody else who will. And it may not be the role model that you want, but that one-on-one time gives them that extra attention that they need. And whether it's you go do something or not, or you color at the table, or you go get an ice cream cone, or you just snuggle up and watch a movie with them when the rest of the kids are in bed or doing something else, it's taking that extra time to show them that they are important, and they're important to you, and they're important to God. And I know I harp on that a lot, because we do get busy, and but sometimes as parents we need to learn to say no sometimes. Because we are responsible and held accountable in God's eyes, but even as parents, to be responsible for the way we raise our kids. And if we don't know them, how can we really raise them? How can we have an impact on them? They're a blessing from God, whether we like to think about it or not, or how mad we get at them for something that they do. But we really need to love and nurture and teach our kids and spend more time with them, because days are short. We're not promised tomorrow, and people get in accidents, things happen, and I don't ever want to be that person that never said something before they died. I want everybody to know. It's just like one of my friends passed away this year, And I don't know that I told her about Jesus Christ, and that has bothered me. So I always tell everybody we have two choices: we either go to heaven or we go to the lake of fire, and we make that choice. And I don't want anybody that's listening to me ever say they didn't know, and I wish you would have said that, because it's true. Whether you believe it or not, or whether you want to believe it or not, until you take your last breath, you don't know what you're going to do. But why wait till your last breath? And, everybody has a choice, and that's one of the things about having free will.
Yep. And aside from the question of eternal destination, there, the reason you don't want to wait till your last breath is there's so much more, life to be lived in Christ through that. It is obviously the difference between heaven and the lake of fire is extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much more life while we're still here too.
There is. One of my kids once told me and said, why would I want to believe in God, Mom? Everything that you've been through, doesn't seem like he's done much for you. And it's like, I told him, I said, I would rather have gone through everything that I have lived through with God than without God. And if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Yeah, that's the perspective we get mixed up on when bad things happen. Sometimes we tend to get frustrated with God or even angry with him.
Yeah, and it's like, why did you do this to me, or why did that happen? And God's not in charge of the bad things that happen. Things happen, and bad things happen to good people, and bad things happen to everybody, and we're all going to have trials and tribulation in our life, and that's part of building the strength and the perseverance and the faith. And that's what is important. And that's what makes us who we are today. If I haven't experienced everything, and let me tell you, you have no idea everything that I've lived through in my life and what I've dealt with. And it's like, if I wouldn't be able to sit here and share with you. I wouldn't be able to continue to learn and to live and to help people. And that, to me, is our primary goal, is to be able to help people and to share our knowledge and our experiences with you. And we both have a big background, and you can go on to Listen and Learn with Leisa, leisa.com, and take a look at who I am, what I'm about, what we have to discuss. This is just one of the many topics that are in our wheelhouse, and we're going to sit here and talk to you, and you're going to grow with us while we grow with you. And we do truly appreciate your time. And we hope that we've given you some type of positive information to take home with you.
Yes, absolutely. We hope that. And,
if nothing else, it tells you that you're not doing this alone. There's other people that have been through it, have lived through it, and will live through it. It's about how you live through it that is going to get you to the other side of this. And we never want to lose hope, because there is always hope, and there's always a solution. And it's about reaching out to the right people and the right resources, and knowing where to go and who to turn to. What do you think, Greg?
I wish we would have opened the air horn, for one.
I did bring that air horn, but I wasn't sure if it would
everybody, it's not 5 feet from me right now, and it's in a package, and we didn't open it.
I didn't want to break your eardrums. That's probably why I did get it out of the package, but I put it back in the package.
We'll get there, though. I might have to edit it in before this gets uploaded. Actually, we'll see about that now. It'll probably be pretty basic, but no. I'm excited to be on this journey. I'm excited to be doing this show, and I'm this is a topic we could probably do 5 or 6. Easy.
There's a lot more.
Yep.
Our time together each week is not enough to cover everything, but we want to wet your whistle. We want to help. We want to give you ideas, things that work for us. And one of the things that did work for me through the years, and I think it's very important, and it's called a family meeting. I always called a family meeting with my kids when there was going to be a change, and you get to sit down and talk to them. You know, it's not about you making the decision, because the decisions that you make affect your kids. And when you're making a decision, you have to look at everybody as a whole that's going to be affected by it. So if you sit down and you have a family meeting, and talking at the dinner table is not enough, because your dinner table talk is basically, how's your day? What did you do? Did you got your homework done? You really want to know what they are thinking. And so if you sit down and you have a family meeting and there's maybe a change coming, and you throw out a couple things and you start talking to them, it makes them feel important, because they are in a family meeting with you, and they say, hey, you know, she really does want to know what I think about this. And maybe they'll even give you a better idea, or something that you didn't even think about. But you know, when you are making that change, and there's more than just you going through that change, you have to go through that change together. And you want that change to be as smooth as possible. And so it might be you making a compromise in this change, you know, or whatever, you know, needs to happen. But, you know, we have to learn. But if you don't communicate, you know, what is happening, how in the world do you expect to build anything? I mean, we've all been in relationships or had people that we know that, you know, won't talk to you, you know, or they give you the silent treatment forever, and you don't know what's going on in their mind. And again, my crystal ball doesn't work, and neither does our crystal balls work with our kids. And there's so much more in today's society that they are going through and dealing with than we ever did when we were growing up. And so it's important that you include the kids in your decision making, because they are going along the ride with you. And I always tell my kids, everything that I have experienced, they had to go through it with me. And maybe at some point in time you'll hear from them, because they need to share things that, you know, either bothered them, or they lived through, or I didn't do right, and maybe I didn't even think about it. But I've also had to apologize to my kids. And that's one of the things too that kids need to know. We make mistakes. We are not perfect, and we are never going to be perfect. But if you don't learn to apologize to your kids, or say, I'm sorry, or I shouldn't have said that, or I'm sorry I yelled at you, it wasn't you, it was something else that happened at work. We need to learn to say I'm sorry and to apologize. And we need to be human with them, just like they are little humans with us. So. Well, you know me, Greg, I can talk forever.
Yeah, that's all right. That is why this works.
Yeah. So, well, we do want to thank you for joining.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, and meeting with us, and we hope that you'll join us next week, because we're going to drop a new show every week. So, thank you again. We'll be praying for you. You can send us emails and questions and topics to...
You know what? I almost got the name of the show wrong again because of the order of the names. That's what happened right there. No, yeah. You can send those questions to the Greg and Leisa Show, Leisa @gmail.com.
Yes, that's right. And pretty soon we're going to have a Facebook up as well.
Yes.
And then we will put some of our videos on Facebook, and you'll be able to join right along. But we look forward to continuing to talk with you and sharing. And we know that you're not always going to agree with us, and we appreciate that. Yep. But we do expect everybody to be adults and to share communication openly but friendly. So, well, what do you say till next week?
See ya. We didn't really discuss a catchphrase to close it, so...
Well,
that might be you have one, don't you?
Well, no, but I can think of one off the top of my head.
Let's do it. Yeah, what you got?
Okay, it's the Greg and Leisa Show signing off for this week, and we'll see you next week. Have a good week, and God bless.
God bless.